Hi and welcome back to Socket Hunter's YouTube channel. Now, one of the people who watch my channel a lot is Keeney, and she was asking about these golden high flow, and we were talking about them, and I mentioned I want the transparent set as well. And she mentioned to use them as a base for colored pencil. And I wasn't sure how that worked. I've tested it out a little bit on this mishap painting. I tested colored pencil directly on the paper because I hadn't put any paint on the moon. And the paper works fine with colored pencil. And I tried a few here. There's a Color Soft and a Pro, Derwent Pro Color. There's Luminance, and the rest here is Derwent Light Fast. And I'm not very pleased with how either of them sit on top of this. Now this is a mix of the high flow and acrylic gouache, but I'm not super impressed with how it sits on top. It doesn't have enough tooth. And I'll use the white because that I have... No, that's actually gouache as well. But even the gouache seems to be not a good base for colored pencils. So my thought was actually to try and paint some on, and I've taken the flader blue because that seems to be the one that dries the shiniest. Some of these dry kind of a bit glossy. So I'm going to paint this, let it dry, try a colored pencil on. I'm going to clip it in 4 pieces at least. Try one with a colored pencil directly. Then I got a clear gesso from Liquitex. I'm going to try and put some of that on another piece, and then when that is all dry, try a colored pencil on that. I got this brush and pencil textured fixative. That is strictly not to use on acrylics, but it is to add the tooth to paper that where you have burnished it too hard or you have filled up the tooth. And I have here golden fluid matte medium, and that is to, you can either mix it with paint or you can put it on top of paint and make a matte surface. And then just try and put all these mediums on, and then try and draw on it with colored pencils afterwards, and see if it makes any difference or if it is just not a good idea. So in the name of testing, let's the painting begin. I got a broad pencil brush lying here ready to spread it out with. Remember to close the nozzle so you don't get blue all over the place next time you use it. I still got brown on my mouse and a few other things here from the raw umber incident. I wonder if this was even a good idea. I guess I need to use a light colored pencil on top of this to see. I guess I don't have to paint it all the way out to the corners. And the edges. Try and get an even coat all over the place. Keep moving it as it dries. There we go. Lots and lots of blue. See if I ever get all that blue out of my brush here. I don't think so. So I'll turn off the camera and take a break while I clean my brush and let paint dry. There, nice and dry and quite shiny. So I am gonna grab a white Posca pen because I think that's the only thing I trust to write on here. And a ruler, oops, and a knife. So let's cut. Approximately somewhere here in the middle. There we go. That was only approximate. We do it again. Doesn't matter if it's totally exact. My cat is going totally mental. He had meats and liver and stuff today.
Piss and vinegar. He's springing like a bobcat.
Okay, man and the cat are now evicted from the room. They have both been in the garden. I think only one of them peed out there. And that would be the cat. So, I cut this up in 4 uneven pieces. Size doesn't matter. So, it does have some texture to it. The paper I'm using is Clairefontaine's paint on, so it's paper that is actually fine for both colored pencils and acrylics. So this is the one I'm gonna use with the liquitex gesso. This one with brush. This, I have no idea if it's going to work with that brush and pencil fixative, because that's really only made for colored pencil. I have no idea if it has any adverse effect with the acrylics. And then I had golden fluid matte medium. That should go on this just fine. I also expect the gesso to work fine with the acrylics. These two, the matte medium and the gesso, I'm more questioning if they work with the colored pencil afterwards. But let us see. So, colored pencil only, how does this work? I'm going to take some light colors. I guess I could try a black too. And let me try and grab a couple of light fast pencils from over there. We got a little bit of selection here. I like to try the... So we got 3 brands here. That gotta be just fine. So 2 of each. Gotta be enough. So let's try the one I had the biggest problems with first. This is the Colour Soft from Durban. It goes on. It just feels really weird. Yeah, and of course the dark color doesn't show up very much. It actually goes on okay when it's on its own. Let's try and maybe do some blending here, because that's what we do. I'd say the this fills up the whatever tooth is here real quick, but that's also a Colour Soft thing. It's hard to find something it layers on really well. So, not terrible. I should probably not have put my... Then let's try the other Durban pencil. Pro Color. That has a little bit of a harder time going on here. It's also a much harder pencil. And it makes marks. I guess it could. It feels a little weird. Dash. I think I'll change this one for a gray, a darker gray. So this feels kind of like the Pro Color. It's like there's no grip, but I do get some pigment on here. It might be it's just a matter of practice and getting used to. You could. It dusts. And then the light fast. This is also not a fantastic mix. Scarlet and what? Forest green. Yeah, it feels weird too. I think the Pro Color was the one I liked the best this far. A couple of 3 layers you can get, but I think that's about it. There's room for one more, and I think polychromos would be a suitable test subject too. I'll pause the camera because they are hidden well. They were difficult to find because I could as never use them anymore. Yeah, they are more transparent than the others, so they don't cover as well. And they feel like they don't grip at all on this paint. And I have used these on paint on paper before, and there was basically no limit to how many layers I could add. They just kept on and on and on, and I stopped counting at 25 layers. I guess you could, but it gets kind of very ghosty, at least with a dark color like that as a base. So absolutely not impossible on its own. And this was the most glossy color I could find. And no, the last famous brand I'm not gonna pull out because I'm not supporting those guys. So I guess you could. Let me grab the focus button if I can find it here. So that's how it looks, and you can see the texture of the paper and the paint through the pencils. So it's I'm not crazy about it. But let's put this to one side as a test thing. I will apply a couple of layers of this, I guess. I got this as a touch-up little brush and bottle thing, and I wasn't aware before I bought it that you have to have really thick paper for it, or a board, because this dries up crispy, so it can break and peel off if you bend the paper after you have applied it. And I did not find that particularly charming. It doesn't have a very bad scent. I'm going to let that dry a bit. 2 layers gotta be enough. Liquitex gesso, and I got that brush cleaned out. Not that it matters much if it is still a little bit blue. That should be more than enough. I'm going to lift it up so I don't get gesso on my mat there underneath. That was too much. It is white now, but it dries up clear. Oops. So that's that one. Let that sit. Rinse my brush out again. Get all that goop out of there. Oops. Pull my brush from each other. It's a very inexpensive brush. It came in a set that cost me like nothing. So that one to one side, and then we got fluid matte medium, and that's to take the glossiness away from acrylic paint. So it does not necessarily have a lot of tooth in itself. But I got it, so let's try it. I got other gessos, and I got a couple of other things, but 2 of them are opaque, so that doesn't make sense to first paint a nice background and then put opaque gesso or watercolor ground on top of that. And then I have another watercolor ground that is transparent, but it's smooth. So that doesn't add any tooth to the paper. So that's them primed, and I'm gonna turn off the camera and let things dry, and then let's try again with the pencils. See you in a bit. Okay, they're somewhat dry. I think that and those two I'll leave a little bit, but the fixative one is definitely done. So let me grab my Posca pen again, and I'll try in the same order as before. Put that there for reference. So we try with Color Soft on this, and I sprayed all over the area, so it should be good. This still feels weird. It actually feels weirder than before. So it's like the surface became even more slick. Now maybe I should have given it a couple of 3 layers more than I did, but no, it really, now it's like I polished it. It's actually also more shiny than before. See? It just added more glare, and that's not because the brush and pencil fixative is a bad product. It is me abusing it for stuff it wasn't meant to do. That is always important to remember when you are using art supplies in other ways than they have been produced by the company to be used. I don't like it as crisp when you use it on colored pencil the way it's supposed to be, but it works okay. It's not that. So it's no critique of the product just because it won't take the abuse I've put it through. And it's the same thing when I test paper. If I test like I did the pastel paper test, all of those worked great with soft pastels and oil pastels. But I tested them with colored pencils and what's it called? With oh no, this can't even barely be seen. I tested them with colored pencil and with pastel pencils also, for which those papers were not really produced. And several of them didn't work with colored pencils. But is that because it's a bad paper? No, it's because I'm using it for something it's not meant to be used for. So I think we can disregard this as an option. This is worse than just straight color pencil on the paint. The luminance grips a little bit better, but only marginally. I would say there's no benefit. It's just money out your pocket to try and use this as a base for colored pencils on high flow paint. That's a surprise. I had hoped that it would work, but it doesn't. That is really weird. It's like drawing on plastic. The luminance and the light fast are both kind of okay on this, but it's not good. It is not good. And polychromas, just forget it. Just forget it. Not gonna happen. Go away, go home. No. Nope, not a good match. So now I've written all the details on here, and I'll put a big, yeah, I found that is definitely failed. That is useless. Sad to say, because it was actually the one I thought would work if anything were failed, but surprise, surprise. Liquitex gesso. Oh, this feels like sandpaper now. It's a good gesso. So let's just go right on. I think this will work better. Oh yes. Now we're talking. This is way better. There's the comparison. Yeah, we got tooth and we got grip, and blending is maybe a little bit of a yeah, well, we can do it. We can do it. It's not with color soft, you don't get tons of layers, but you can definitely do some shading and a little bit of blending, but don't expect more than 2 or 3 layers on that. And I'm just doing dry blending. I'm not gonna experiment with liquid solvents in this Pro color. Not today anyways. Maybe another day when I'm feeling a little more chemically inclined. I don't think there would be a problem though, because the acrylics in the gesso is kind of an inert kind of thing. The Pro color works better too. Again, not something you get a load of layers out of, but it sticks there and it looks okay. It looks a little better than the clean color. Pro color. Luminance. I'm glad I picked different colors because the luminance and the light fast look a lot like each other when they just lie on the table. Yeah, this could work. Yeah, then we're full. So what, I don't know, what was that, 4 layers? It's a scarlet red. I don't know if you get more tooth if you let the first layer of gesso dry and then add another, or if it's just gonna be the same. See if the polychromos like this. Oh, finally we can see the polychromos. Look at that compared to just straight up. Actually, they all show up much more vivid and visible. Polychromos is also one of the brands that really works well on sanded paper. Yeah, But like 3-4 layers is as much as it gets. That one can be used. Liquitex gesso, and I suspect that any other clear gesso would be okay. So let's put that one to one side. And last but not least, gold fluid matte medium. I'm not sure. It did say it was going to give a waxy surface, and that's true. It's not quite as shiny as the straight up paint, and you can actually see where I stop with the matte medium up here. This has not been painted or only down here. So for the first time, Color Soft. Nope, go on. That doesn't grip at all. I can't even barely see it. I'm not even gonna try. I'll try and see how many layers I can't get on there. That doesn't make any sense. I don't know if you mixed it in with the paint before you put it on, if that made any difference. I doubt it. Just no. There's some marks in the surface, and that's all that made. A little bit of luminance goes on, but that's also some pigment in that. It's nearly a pastel pencil. No hope for the last two either. Yeah, a little bit, but really not anything to write home about. Can't be bothered. Yeah, forget it. No, can't be bothered. That was a massive fail. So let's conclude this. I'd say the two best solutions is either the paint on its own or the liquitex gesso. Forget textured fixative and forget matte medium from Golden. That was the worst. You can see I did try. Has a little bit of pencil marks on there. But there came no pigment off. So that doesn't work. I'll try and let it dry a little more, but I really don't think drying it more will improve much on it. The gesso was definitely the best solution. I'll focus a little on this because that, and here's the straight up colored pencils. So you can see you get less. You get a little more. You can get a little more layers, and you could blend a little better, so you get rid of the visible texture. I could have tried more with the Pro Color, but that was actually an okay solution. The Color Soft dusted a little bit, and so did luminance, but luminance always create dust, I think. So gesso, okay. This is a fixative, and that made it really shiny. So that was a bad combination with the acrylic and the fixative. It made it even harder to get the pencil to stick. But so it just made it worse. So that goes down. Let's see. Let's line them up in terms of uselessness and usefulness. So, the clear winner is to put a a transparent gesso on it and then use colored pencil on top if you like. Alternative, if you work a little for it, and maybe if you can get it to work with with some liquid solvent of sorts. Actually, I got a alcohol blender for a marker, and you can sometimes use that with colored pencils. No, not a good idea. No, not recommendable. That actually picked up also the pigment from the, I think it picked up pigment from the acrylic underneath. Yes, it does. That's wild. See? Definitely weren't flat or blue on that one before I started. Now I get really curious if... So anyways, the fixative and the golden fluid matte medium. The matte medium was the worst. The textured fixative was also bad. The pencil just didn't want to stick on it at all. Worst was the fluid matte medium, as you can tell. So, but I wouldn't spend the money on other solution because it's a waste of your time and it's a waste of your products. I'm not sure I would use colored pencils on top of this. I would probably choose a different medium, like acrylic gouache. Acrylic gouache is kind of matte in itself, and I think if you put down an acrylic gouache and then maybe some clear gesso on top, then you could probably have a good result. I feel this was a little forced, maybe. It's kind of pushing things really to the limit, where I'm not sure the effort matches the result, to be quite honest. There's probably people more talented than me that can maybe get something out of this, but I would really go with the gesso instead. The gouache instead. Again, this is, I mean, it was fun to try, but it is not a solution I would really want. I would use my colored pencils for something more adequate and get better results with something else. If I wanted to put something on top, I think the Posca pen was actually a better choice. It shows up nicely on top of everything, and it was quite nice to use actually on the gesso as well. So that's my conclusion. I'm not sure I would recommend colored pencil with on top of high flow acrylic paints. They're good for stuff, but I don't think this is. I could try another thing. I'm not just not very interested, and that is to mix the matte medium that I put away while the things were drying. The matte medium, I could maybe try and mix that in with the paint, but given that neither product really worked well with colored pencils, I am not sure that's a fantastic idea. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this. This was a fun test. I hope it was informative to some of you who was wondering about stuff. Thanks for the idea, Keeney. See you.